Let me explain the format for tonight. Each candidate for the Board of Public Utilities will have 3 minutes for opening introductory remarks. Then the panelists will then ask questions of the candidate, starting in reverse alphabetical order. If the candidate has sent a representative, that person only will present opening remarks, and that's what the case is tonight with the BPU candidates. Each candidate will have an opportunity to respond to each of the panelists' questions. Responses should be limited to 2 minutes. Candidates are urged to stick to the issues, and this is not a debate. First, we'll call on Kevin Braun for his opening remarks. Kevin?
Thank you. My name is Kevin Braun. I've been a Kansas City, Kansas resident for the last 10 years, and I've been a resident of Kansas for over 20 years. I have a bachelor's degree in business and a master's degree in business law. I have 32 years of service in the Army Reserve with 2 overseas deployment at times of war. I have 32 years of private sector experience as well. I've never held public office. I am funding my own campaign. I think these qualifications make me unique in the fact that I am a private sector person. All of my experience, other than military service, has been in the private sector, and that is the same as the people that are paying the bills at the public utility. I'm running for the BPU as an act of service to my community. I'm looking out for the interests of you, the payers, and you are the owners. My campaign will be based on 5 principles. I would like to place affordability in the mission statement of the BPU so that affordability is considered in everything we do. Wyandotte County is not the richest county in the state of Kansas. As a matter of fact, it's in the bottom. And it's very important that those who are paying their utilities get a good rate on their utilities and their bill overall. I also want to remove the pilot tax from the BPU bill. It's a city tax, should be handled by the city. I'd like to vote against any rate increases until all reductions are considered. It may be news to you, but there's a 4% increase that just hit your bill. There's going to be a 4% increase that hits next year as well. On green energy, I'll only support green energy that lowers your bill. That's the concept of green energy. If it lowers your bill, that's good. I support that. And then last, on the fees, when it comes to fees, I want to make sure that our fees are in line with the true cost of the service that fee represents. Our fees are higher than other locations. Thank you.
Now David Gonzalez will speak for his mother, Mary Gonzalez, who is an incumbent with the BPU.
Good evening. My name is Dave Gonzalez. Like he said, I am here representing my mother, Mary Gonzalez. She cannot be here this evening. She's at a BPU board meeting as we speak. My brothers and I knew at an early age that my mother was destined to make a run for a seat on the utility board because she would always yell at us, "Hey, why is the refrigerator open?" Or, "It's not cold in here. If it's cold, put on a sweatshirt." So we knew at an early age that she was destined to, that the BPU was her fit. On a more serious note, my mom has worked tirelessly to make her community the best it can be. She has been and will continue to be a strong, independent voice. She will make sound decisions that are not motivated or driven by anything other than doing what's best for you, the ratepayers, and the future of our utility. Moving the utility forward, there is much to do. There are 4 key points that my mother would like to stress, and that is number 1, continue to partner with community leaders, business customers, and others to support community goals and foster more economic development. Number 2, continue to update electric and water master plans to identify growth potential and mitigate the aging infrastructure concerns. 3, monitor and comply with legislative and regulatory environmental uncertainties. And number 4, always the BPU must try to improve our communications with you, the paying customers. The 500 plus BPU employees live right here in our community, contributing to our economy. They are top givers every year in the United Way campaign. They have raised over $500,000 for children's causes through their annual golf tournament. They go to work every day to do the best they can to keep your lights on and your water clean and safe. She's proud of them and the 100 plus years the utility have served in this community. She will lead with honesty, integrity, and strength of character. She humbly asks for your support and vote on August 1st. Thank you for your time.
Now we'll move to questions from Edgar Galicius from Central Avenue, and then Kevin will respond.
To your knowledge as an institution, describe the biggest internal challenges the Board of Public Utilities has.
So I feel the biggest challenge that is facing us at this point is the affordability associated with what's being paid for our utilities and the things that are on our utility bill. I know the city has a progressive attitude about energy and about bringing new types of energy. And I think they're overreaching in applying to types of energy that are more expensive than gas, coal, and those kind of things. So what happens is you end up with an energy bill that is overinflated based on going green, which I don't have anything against. I recycle my cans, I recycle my plastics, consider the environment important, but there's a balance there between when you're living in Wyandotte County, where you don't have Hollywood type incomes and you're buying Gucci energy. So I think we need to go away from Gucci energy unless it is competitive with other energy sources. So I think that's the biggest expense right now.
Okay. Next we go to Elnora Jefferson for her question.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
A new report issued by the NAACP reframes access to energy service and electric power as a basic human right. Simply put, according to the NAACP, electric power is essential to our health, well-being, safety, and prosperity. Considering that the BPU collects and enforces the non-payment of utility charges and UG charges, including the pilot, could you speak to this practice and whether you would agree to it continuing or not in terms of the NAACP report?
So I have not read the NAACP report, but so I can speak to it this way. The fact that the pilot tax, it's interesting the way the pilot tax is set up. So if you just sent out a bill to everybody that said, I want to tax you by another $60 a month, no one would pay that bill. And there's no method of enforcement of that bill if the UG just sends out that bill, right? So what they do is they connect it to your BPU, where women, children, families, everybody who's trying to beat the heat right now is forced to pay that, along with what they really should be paying for is their energy. So I don't think it's right that it's done that way. I know that it generates around $30 million a year for the city, but the thought of people deciding, hey, am I gonna be able to take care of my kids today? Are we gonna have lights on today? Or am I gonna be able to have air conditioning in my house? For those of any race, is a big deal. It's really important that we get that off there so that they don't use that as a tool of leverage against people. And then the NAACP could go back and say, what are we going to do to reduce the rates? Right? So if your bill's high anyway, if it's higher than standard anyway, and you've got excess fees on there, and then you add on top of it a pilot tax, I don't support enforcing that in that way. And we do have a lot of people that get turned off here based on that. I think the first step to get more people to be able to pay their bill, remove the pilot tax from there. Make it the city tax that it should be. Get your rates down by not supporting, falsely supporting elevated green energy.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Next question will be from Mary Rupert from the Wyandotte Daily Online.
Okay, I'm wondering, if you had been on the board at the time, what would your position have been on the bailout for the T-Bones on their utility bill? And also, what would your position have been on putting utilities underground on Leavenworth Road?
That's a great question. So on question one, I'm a free market person, and I believe that the free market will correct itself. So if the T-Bones could not sustain, right, I don't blame the T-Bones because they're negotiating with the city. And the city has an unlimited pocket. It's yours. All they have to do is raise the rates, raise the pilot tax, and you're gonna pay it, right? So when you're dealing with an unlimited pocket, it's an odd type of negotiation. What needed to happen there is they needed to say, T-Bones, and I love the T-Bones, by the way. I took my whole family to a game 2 weeks ago. They're great, and it's a lot of fun. But it would also be fun to buy you a Cadillac Escalade and then come to you and give you the payment book and say, shouldn't you thank me? Aren't you happy that you have a Cadillac Escalade? Well, maybe Mary Rupert can't afford a Cadillac Escalade. Maybe she doesn't want to make those payments. So the free market has got to handle that, and the T-Bones have to sustain themselves. I'm only at 1 minute. So, on the second issue of the burial of the lines, I happened to be at the Leavenworth Road Association meeting when the mayor came in, and he talked about how ugly it would be if there were ugly poles and how unappealing they would be. I think it is not within the best interests of the community to spend that much money for that purpose, given that it could be done much less expensive with poles. It could be done in a smarter way, and that spending is excessive, and I can't afford an Escalade.
Okay. Edgar Galicius from Central Avenue.
Thank you. You talk about affordability, taking the pilot tax out, rate increases out, green energy for lower bills, fees for true cost. In reactivating the low-income residents economy, what should be the BPU's community engagement look like?
I'm disciplining myself because I was here last year and we went over time, so I'm controlling my own 2 minutes there. Community engagement, when you talk about talking to the community, we should have gone out and done a better job of letting everybody know there's an increase. There's people that'll be watching this evening and they're in this room this evening that they saw their bill go up by 4%. They weren't aware of that it happened, right? It just comes in the bill. They also needed to say that next year the same thing is going to be happening. And I understand there was an open meeting and people could talk at that. But that's the kind of engagement we need because they're the owners. They own the utility. With regard to other community engagement, I question whether we're increasing rates, and I heard in the opening that Dave said that we've given $500,000 to the United Way. Where do you think $500,000 came from? It didn't come from you unless you checked on unless you're overpaying your BPU bill. When we look at the charitable things they do, they're really a redistribution of wealth. We've got to avoid that. I don't have anything against charity. I donate significant amounts of my income. And I think it's okay to partner with places that want to donate and them to partner, but I don't think you should ever take a dollar from this person and move it to that person because you on the BPU board think it's a good idea.
Our next question will be from Elnora Jefferson.
Yes, would you please speak to climate control and the future of renewables? For example, do you support renewable tax credits? Renewable energy tax credits, sorry.
So to speak to that, one of the things in your most recent BPU, so you'd see this in your BPU connection, which is a nice communication, but you're paying for every time that's printed, and you're paying when it's distributed. When you talk about tax credits, we are doing a solar idea. We're doing a solar experiment here in Wyandotte County. In there, you can pay $470 to buy yourself a solar panel. I'm assuming that every member of the BPU board right now has already gotten in line and purchased theirs. That would be likely, right? Because if it's a good idea for you, it's a great idea for me. And when we look at that, we then study further and we find that as far as tax credits, anytime you are manipulating the market, another solar company goes bankrupt, right? So 5 solar companies in the United States have gone bankrupt. Do you know when they went bankrupt? When the tax credits stopped, right? So when you're going to artificially inflate a market because you're going to pay people to do things, and it's got a trap door on it, because when that trap door drops out, it's not worth it, right? We're going to be stuck. We're going to be stuck with this solar energy. I know they signed a 20-year contract on wind too. I was looking today at something I did not get a 20-year contract on. That was my BlackBerry, right? So if you were strapped with a BlackBerry right now, you'd be pretty disappointed because the person next to you would be on an innovative iPhone and they would be getting images and texts and all sorts of things. The problem with technology when the government gets involved is that it doesn't advance. The free market will advance energy development. The government spending or the government subsidization does just the opposite. It slows any innovation because it takes out any competition. And then people go bankrupt.
Next question will be from Mary Rupert.
Tell me some more about your educational background. Do you have any kind of a background in engineering or anything that makes the utilities run here?
So that's a fair question, Mary. I do not. All of my experience is in the free market, and I have a business degree. I have worked for 3 Fortune 500 companies. I understand how business works. I understand that the free market system, and I understand something that we don't seem to understand here in Wyandotte as well as we should, which is this is a public utility and it's a not-for-profit utility. So it shouldn't be run like any other for-profit business, right? It should be run so that at the end of the year, if there's any money left, you should get a check back. You ever gotten a check back from the BPU? No. It's your money, right? So at the end of the year, and I understand from a fiscal accounting standpoint, there's a certain amount of reserve. I'm being somewhat light about it. It's a very serious budget, but at the same time, if there's any extra, it should go to rate reduction or back to the user because they're the owner.
No, only the candidates.
Or only the, oh, I'm sorry.
Only candidates
Sorry.
get their marks. I apologize. Go ahead.
First, I want to thank Dave for being here, and I appreciate that your mother is serving at the current time at a BPU meeting. I want to thank Business West for the forum, for having this forum, and each of you for asking the questions that you asked. I want to thank the audience and those who are watching at home. If elected, I will focus on 5 priorities. I want to place affordability in the mission statement of the BPU, because we have to be able to provide, you deserve the best value for your dollar. And I don't want to turn the air conditioning off at 100 degrees on families that are sitting there and can't pay their pilot tax. I want to remove that pilot tax from the BPU bill. If the BPU board isn't strong enough to do it, then we'll go to the public and see what the public thinks about it. I think I know what they think. Until all other reductions are exhausted, we don't need to raise rates. So I could be convinced that a rate increase is appropriate, but I really got to see that there's no Cadillac Escalades in a BPU parking lot, right? I got to know that what we're doing is efficient and effective. And then I'll come back to you honestly and say, hey, we don't have anywhere else to go. We've reduced the expense of green energy, we've reduced these other expenses, and we have nowhere to go. But I think that needs to be looked at. Next, I want to reduce the green energy, only in that if the green energy is, you're 30 seconds faster than I am, only if the green energy is less or more affordable than standard energy, so fossil fuels. And then we've got to take those fees and make them represent what they're actually for. So if there's a fee on your bill, it's got to represent the true cost of the fee. I understand it's your public utility. My name's Kevin Braun. I'd appreciate your vote on August 1st and on November 7th. Thank you, and have a great night.
Now we are adjourned.